You may not realize it, but motion graphics are everywhere and are used in many different ways, ranging from advertising and branding to the movies, especially in title sequences such as what you see here with Scott Pilgrim vs. the World. Musicians have been taking advantage of this technology for years now, and use motion graphics to create stunning visuals ranging anywhere from logos to lyric and music videos. With the latter two, motion graphics often help establish a narrative. 3 artists that successfully use motion graphics to tell a story in their videos are Paramore with their video for Hard Times, Taylor Swift's lyric video for Look What You Made Me Do, and I Don't Know How But They Found Me with their video for Razzmatazz. Before we look at how motion graphics help tell a story or create a narrative in these videos, let's find out what motion graphics are exactly. Motion graphics are defined as a continuous sequence of animated typography, animated 2D and 3D computer-generated imagery, and live-action footage that have been composited together, output to a digital file format, and displayed in a mediated environment. But what the heck does that even mean? Well, basically motion graphics are just animated shapes or objects based on elements of graphic design. And how do they work in music videos? Musicians and directors will often use motion graphics to grab the audience's attention, engage with them emotionally, and propel the narrative forward. So now that we've got all that definitional stuff out of the way, let's look at how motion graphics work in the following music videos. Paramore have used motion graphics a few times in their most recent music videos, but the one that they are used most effectively in is their video for their single Hard Times, which was released on April 19, 2017. Director Andrew Joff worked directly with the band to establish the narrative for the video, which follows singer Hayley Williams on her journey to escape from real life, where she ends up in a fantasy land inspired by the 1980s. The first shot is inspired by The Truman Show and shows Hayley crashing through a wall into a fantasy land, whereas in the movie, Jim Carrey was on his way out. The use of motion graphics in this video helps solidify the aesthetic and create a narrative while also letting the audience into the psyche of Miss Williams. They do this through the use of bright colors and shapes, which subsequently play off of the sound of the music, and create a world that is clearly unlike our own. These graphics are based on those used in the video for Take On Me by IDKHOW, and the color palette is reminiscent of Weird Science and Square Pegs, all of which were pretty popular in the 80s and helped solidify that sense of nostalgia. The use of motion lines directly corresponds to the movements of the band, as we can see here with guitarist Taylor York and drummer Zach Farrell, and their function is to capture the audience's attention. In addition to motion lines, the use of typography in this video puts a strong emphasis on the narrative and the basis or the meaning of the song. And obviously it's about and along with this, some of the graphics are contextualized by lyrics of the song, such as which showcases a rocky visual element, and which shows a rain cloud hanging over the heads of the band. The director said that they weren't afraid to be too literal in their depictions, which honestly makes the video more appealing. All of these elements combined help solidify the narrative that Hayley is traveling through a fantasy land. Next up is Taylor Swift's video for Look What You Made Me Do, directed by Gary Breslin with visuals created by Odd New York. The video was released on August 24, 2017, and the video provides a dark and vengeful representation of the song, and it shows how Taylor herself has changed.
I'm sorry, the old Taylor can't come to the phone right now. Why? Oh, 'cause she's dead.
This video uses a lot of typographic and iconographic elements to guide the narrative along. But first, let's look at the typography. The text is presented in a way that communicates the sinister vibe of the song. It appears in a handwritten style and in thick strokes. Most of the text is kinetic, which means it moves, and corresponds with the lyrics, such as what you see here. And next we'll look at iconography. Just a bit of background information on this. Iconography is defined as a particular range or system of types of image used by an artist or artists to convey particular meanings, and we see it a lot with religious depictions. In the case of the Taylor Swift video, we'll focus on the serpent as the main iconographic element, as it is used multiple times throughout the video, especially during the chorus of the song. Snakes are usually used to represent lies, evil, and temptation. Therefore, the use of the snake graphic in this video was not an accident, and it helps solidify the idea that Taylor has been wronged in some way. The final element for this video that we'll look at is the color of the graphics used. Look What You Made Me Do is one of Taylor's darker sounding songs, so it's only fitting that the lyric video would be represented in dark colors. The colors at the forefront are red, blacks, and grays. Red is associated with danger, power, desire, and anger, all of which are themes throughout the song and video. The purpose of black and white is to give off a feeling of suspense, kind of like a film noir.
You're the one who'll be killed.
I've been dead for years.
All of these elements help create a successful narrative of betrayal and revenge told via motion graphics. The next and final video that we'll look at that uses motion graphics to aid in storytelling is Razzmatazz by IDKHOW But They Found Me. I'll be shortening the name of the band to IDKHOW so I can breathe. Before we jump into how motion graphics function in this video, I want to give a little backstory on the band. Singer and songwriter Dallin Weekes is heavily inspired by the 80s, musically, lyrically, and visually. His onstage persona is loosely based on David Bowie's Ziggy Stardust and the Beatles' Sgt. Pepper, which were all based on the idea of a band within a band. IDKHOW has created a fictional narrative throughout their career that they were a band popular in the 80s and somehow were forgotten until their videos were unearthed in the past few years. That being said, every one of this band's videos looks like they came straight from the 80s or late 70s. This video was directed by Everett Fitch and was released on September 23, 2020. From the beginning or title sequence, we can already see the vintage quality through the pixelated graphics of the typography. And if that wasn't enough to convince you, the video was shot using only vintage lo-fi VHS equipment, but that's besides the point. The point is that the motion graphics in this video help guide the narrative and timeline that IDKHOW is trying to sell. At times throughout the video, the band is highlighted by a fuzzy pink line reminiscent of the neon glow of the 80s. The motion graphics playing behind the band are clips from experimental films and early CGI from the late 70s, thus setting the timeline and narrative. Some of the graphics seem chosen especially for this video, such as a clip of the neon line drawing of a town that corresponds to Weekes singing, Though motion graphics aren't the main focus of this video, they certainly aid in the storytelling power and set the timeline for it, while also solidifying the idea that Weekes wishes to communicate. These are just a few examples of the ways musicians are using motion graphics to tell a story. There are many more music videos to explore that showcase motion graphics as a storytelling device, and I encourage you to explore these and recognize them. With that being said, I'll leave you to it. Thank you for watching.